You can start now.
Welcome to the April 5th, 2022 meeting of the Manhattan Community Board 6 Environment and Parks Committee. My name is Kevin O'Keefe and I am the chair of this committee. Joining us tonight is Community Associate Alex Crawford. I should add that this meeting comes to order at 7:05 p.m. Members of the public, you can raise your questions or comments that you may have through Zoom's Q&A feature. If there is time following the committee's discussion, we will field questions from the public. Anton Malner has volunteered to take minutes tonight. Thank you, Anton. You should also have received an email from the board office with a link to a doodle sign-up sheet for minutes takers at your committee meetings in 2022. For your convenience, this link to the sign-up sheet is now being posted in the chat. We will now take attendance by roll call. Alex will conduct the roll call.
Committee members, I will call your name and you will unmute yourselves. When your name is called, please say present. I will announce if there is quorum. Marty Barrett.
Present.
Matt Bondi.
Present.
Claire Brennan.
Present.
Jeannie D'Onofrio.
Present.
Paige Judge.
Present.
Anton Malner.
Present.
Raj Nayak.
Present.
Kevin O'Keefe. Kevin O'Keefe.
I'm here.
Okay. Reshma Patel.
Present.
Dean Stephanides.
Present.
Mark Thompson.
Present.
Maura Wong.
Present.
And Letty Simon.
Present.
We have quorum.
Thank you, Alex. The agenda for tonight's meeting was distributed ahead of time by the board office and appears on the screen right there. If there is no objection, we will adopt the agenda as stated. Members of the committee, if you do object to adopting this agenda, you may raise your hand through Zoom. Not seeing any objections, so the agenda for tonight's meeting is adopted. The minutes from the March 1st committee meeting are still being drafted. So there are no minutes up for adoption tonight. The March 1st minutes will be up for adoption at the May 3rd committee meeting. Now, in order to conduct an efficient meeting, let's observe a few ground rules. 1, no one may speak until granted the floor. 2, committee members, if you have a question about committee business or wish to make a motion, please raise your hand through Zoom. 3, the chat function should never be used for committee business or questions about agenda topics. All such remarks should be made on the record by raising your hand through Zoom. Chat should only be used to alert us to any technical difficulties you are having or to state in writing information, such as an email address, that was already stated aloud on the record during the meeting. Number 4, when a committee member is given the floor to speak, I will identify you and you can then unmute yourself so that you can speak. 5th and last, we are required by New York state law to have a transcript of the meeting. So please keep your questions and comments succinct and germane to the discussion. I will attempt to do the same. Agenda item number 1 is the discussion of the removal of tree guards at construction sites. First, let me lay down some background. At each meeting since November, we have asked a different community group in the district to make a presentation about any environmental or parks needs that it would like to see in the community. Because of an ongoing issue, we are taking a pause this month to bring back the first community group that presented to this committee, that being the 62-year-old Murray Hill Neighborhood Association. As many of us will remember, the association had raised an environmental issue, wooden tree guards around trees on sidewalks. This continues to be an issue of unsanitary and unsightly conditions and of moves that have harmed trees. Now, indeed, this is a photo I snapped last night on 3rd Avenue. This just happens to be one of dozens of tree beds boarded up like this. Granted, some do so without orange mesh screens, but they are still used as receptacles for trash, and some have graffiti, illegal signage, and other things that happen to be against the law. The tree beds have collected so much trash that rat poison is being used to kill the rats attracted to the trash pits inside the tree guards. What Murray Hill, Kips Bay, and other neighborhoods are left with is an unhealthy environment that results from the garbage, the infestation of rats and mice, and this endangers the health and welfare of the public. Now, again, like I said, we've invited back the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association. Michael Ann Rowe, the association trustee who presented in November, is among those in this meeting. Ms. Rowe also serves as chair of the association's Green and Clean Committee. Now, many of us have long been grateful for the work of the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association. The group was founded to oppose city plans to run an expressway through Murray Hill. That so-called Midtown Manhattan Expressway project never happened. In 1974, the association started an Adopt a Tree program. Many of those trees remain today and have long been cared for by the association. Only that's been hard to do because of a construction project to replace water mains and sewers that has gone on for years and is not slated to finish until at least 2023. Sidewalk congestion from those bulky structures is only one of the other problems caused. Now, the Parks Department is responsible for the trees, but other city agencies are responsible for the oversight of the construction projects and the sidewalks. That is the Department of Design and Construction and the Department of Transportation. Now, as I mentioned at the top of this call, a couple of weeks ago, Jeannie and I met with the city's new Parks and Recreation Commissioner, Beth Donahue, who was appointed this year. Yes, Jeannie invited the commissioner to a future meeting, so we may be hearing from her down the road. And as I also mentioned, I did enjoy nerding out a bit with the commissioner about interagency challenges, and I did mention the sidewalk trees. The commissioner was receptive to the Parks Department helping find a better way. Now, I know Councilmember Rivera's office has reached out to get ACE to help clean up the tree beds. But when there's mess around the tree guards, as I showed in that picture, they can't actually get to the trash. Now, to discuss tree guards is, again, someone who has personally been cleaning up the tree beds with other volunteers. In fact, every Saturday through April, starting at 9 a.m., you can join Michael Ann Rowe and her group to help clean up Murray Hill. Ms. Rowe, welcome back to this committee. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Kevin. I really appreciate you giving me some time to speak again. And I got to say, thank you again. The cleanup program is going to continue in through the summer, which is really great. And thank you to some of the community board people that came out, Matt and Daryl. Is it Russell or Daryl? He has two first names. Sorry, I forgot, CB8. It was really nice. We're really getting momentum behind that cleanup happening, and it really helps to have people know that it happens every Saturday. So thank you for those who are coming out and intend to come out. You know, guys, we are going into year 4 of this construction project, and they're telling us based on an old mandate that these guards will not come down, like Kevin said, until the project is complete. The project now seems to be going into 2023. The Department of Design and Construction has failed at every juncture to keep the tree beds and the tree guards maintained. But more so, the mandate has led to dirty, infested sidewalks and tree beds full of filth and hazardous materials. If Alexander could please show some of these pictures, I will explain. Just to give you, I walk the streets every day, and of course, when we're cleaning up, this is part of our cleanup. Becomes very challenging. This is a before and after of the corner of 35th and 3rd. Beautiful, big, beautiful tree on the left. Now the tree in the fall. This is what the tree looked like. Continue to photograph number 2. Now the tree is gone. The tree bed on the left, they took, you can see the garbage in the tree bed. There was rat poisoning put in that tree bed as per the right photo. The tree is now gone, literally gone. Rotted out, just gone. What's happening is there are bites. You can go on to the next picture, please. Yes, here we are. You can see the polluting of the tree beds, using rat poisoning as well. The congestion that is happening in these tree beds. Keep going, Alexandra. Thank you so much. Using the tree guards for graffiti and advertising, eyesores, looking trashy, making downtrodden our neighborhood. Really bad for businesses, to excel, and people wanting to walk around our neighborhood and look around and bring their kids around and bring people into our neighborhood to do business, live and breathe in Murray Hill and Kips Bay. And then the final picture, I believe it is, and this structure on the left. For that reason alone, why are they not taking down these tree guards? On the right, actually, they did take the tree guard down, broken down and shifting. Why do they shift? Because the bikes and people hover and lean on these tree guards. And soon enough, as you can see on the right, the tree guards have shifted all over the neighborhood, into the curbs, down onto the street, into this structure. And what happened as a result of us walking around in the fall with Karen Flores and her construction captain was that they did remove the tree guards from 33rd Street. So our argument here is let's continue on removing these tree guards. Now the construction sites have no bearing on the curbs and the sidewalks along our avenues and streets. These projects are happening predominantly in the middle of the road, but more so on any given day, a car or a truck can pull up to the side of the curb and dismantle the curbside tree guards. We can get to that problem, but right now it is challenging for us to get inside of what has now become garbage pits. And there are also targets, like I said, for bike riders, where they lock their bikes at nighttime. They throw trash, or the bike drivers throw trash right into the tree pits. And they are also congesting our sidewalks, as Kevin noted. They're just absolutely targets to throw trash. And this mandate has failed at every corner. So the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, along with the Kips Bay community, are very concerned about what will be left and what we'll be fighting for in years to come for the replacement of these trees and upkeep of the damage that has been done. And we want badly to restore what was Adopt a Tree program, but in order to do that, we need these tree guards that were supposed to protect the trees to please come down now before the project ends. So I ask you to please come to a resolution to take the tree guards down now and please save our trees. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Ms. Rowe. We do have a hand. I see Jeannie and Matt and Mark Thompson. I will go in alphabetical order. Matt Bondi, you're up.
Thank you, Kevin. And Michael Ann, I just want to say what a pleasure it was to be your clean partner over the weekend, cleaning up the streets. There's really no better way to start your weekend than to get out there early at 9 o'clock and do some good for the neighborhood. And you showed me these tree guards yourself, and I saw firsthand what the problems are with them. Some of these tree guards are built 2 or 3 feet beyond the tree pit itself into the sidewalk. And they are just a garbage trap. They're so unsightly. And you really can't do anything with those tree pits. You can't plant flowers. You know, this would be a great time for these tree bed plantings to adopt a tree. So I'm with you 100%. There's really no real reason they should be there. And I've seen them proliferate throughout the city. They're in my neighborhood too. They're throughout Midtown. And you can understand where this might be necessary if they're digging up a sidewalk or something like that. To protect the equipment that's moving around, digging up a sidewalk. But at the same time, like Michael Ann said, if this work is occurring in the middle of the street, there's really no reason to have them there. And again, if you damage a tree, there are consequences for that. So, I think that the tree guard should go.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matt. I did want to go to Jeannie next. Your hand's back up. Thank you. Go ahead, Jeannie, you have the floor.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Michael Ann. A couple of questions. How many tree guards are there that that you would like removed? How many, do you know how many in the
Gosh.
district or in your neighborhood?
That's a really good question. Actually, it's something it would be nice to find out. I'm really wondering about the contract of this whole tree guard situation, but I'm not sure. And maybe we can revert that to design and construction to let us know. Why are you asking?
Oh, just
If I
trying to
may
figure out-
jump in, I did count 41, and I'm not saying that's all. That just happened to be a walk around Kings Bay and Murray Hill
Okay.
recently.
What are the parameters on the streets, Kevin? From what street to what street?
First,
Go ahead, Michael Ann. You probably have a
Yeah,
better beat on it.
first to Lexington, and 32nd to 36.
First to Lex, okay. And which agency actually installed those tree guards?
Designing.
The company that the construction company that design and construction has approved to do so.
Okay. I'm just wondering if we can go with the big old pickup truck and start ripping them down ourselves.
You don't think that that's been discussed? I'm not saying we would do it.
Anyway, okay, thank you.
Who's going to arrest us?
Mark Thompson, you have the floor.
Jeannie, I'll be behind you with a camera or a mask or something so they get caught. Michael Ann, have you spoken to anybody at DDC about this, or is there a person that's sort of, we know that's in charge of it?
Is that Department of Construction?
Design and construction.
You had mentioned Karen, and I know she.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Karen has been predominantly our person on that and then I got into CCing Carlina's office as well as a follow-up because they had walked around with us, and same with Patrick Hill from Keith's office. But her construction lead, Robert, I forget his last name, he agreed with us that look at the eyesore and look, they're really a pain in the ass, to tell you the truth. So, and I'm sure for him, but at the same time, it was his construction company or his construction crew that is supposed to be keeping care of these tree beds and the tree guards.
Now, I do know the only thing I've heard is if the construction company's budgeted for those tree guards to stay up, they could potentially make the case that we may have to circle back to, I guess, fix something that wasn't done right in the first place. That, of course, needs to be addressed. So somebody had mentioned potential resolution. I really do think that this needs to be looked at from a fresh perspective on, let's say that's the case, that they may have to go back to a site. Well, first of all, I'm not convinced that these tree guards are, like you said, Matt, this work is being done not on the sidewalks, they're being done on the street in this particular project. But I would like to think that guards don't have to stay up for months and months, actually years, on this project, on streets and stretches that aren't even being worked on during that time. Marty Barrett, you have the floor.
Might also be an insurance issue in regards to if in fact the construction company would agree to take them down early, for instance, and rather than waiting for the end of the project. And during that period of time, one of the trees gets damaged. Who's responsible?
Well, the only thing I would say to that is trees have been damaged with the tree guards up, and that's when the tree guards come down. They will take down tree guards. That's the precedent that has been set when they damage a tree, and they have pushed over trees, not the agency, but when people put their bikes on there, those tree guards are not fastened to the ground. They shift and they push over trees. So, the question is more harm being done by even having them there?
Right. And I in the first place, they haven't even followed the mandate. So, I mean, and they took tree guards down from 33rd Street. So if this is a hard and fast rule, I mean, how did they get that passed? And how did they remove a tree guard just recently on 3rd Avenue randomly? So it's, and the streets, it's true, the side streets there's no construction going on most of those side streets. And then again, we're talking about where's the construction on the curbside that they need to be, still have these tree guards in place.
Right. And look, I feel for the Parks Department. They put up these trees and beautiful trees. And then again, people like the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association are trying to upkeep them. And it's what I said, I talked to Commissioner Donahue about. You have this interagency scuffle, not scuffle, but, confusion and challenge. I think Parks has done its job. They put up nice trees, and what happens around them on the streets, I think we really need to be focused on taking a fresh look at the treatment of trees during construction projects. This can include a future where construction companies can find a more effective and a lot less harmful and a lot less unsightly way to care for trees. At the very, very least, to take down the guards when they are not serving a purpose. And I think what you're saying now from the Murray Hill Neighborhood Association, they're not really serving a purpose unless the purpose is to uglify our city.
Exactly. Which it's wearing the neighborhoods down big time. It's just a complete eyesore, but really, it's really getting into, like you said, the environmental issue right before our eyes. Being told to put rat poisoning in the tree beds? Seriously? Which is happening right before our eyes.
Right. Well, again, this is the second meeting we've addressed this. I really do think this would be a good time for anybody that would like to move to do anything that would progress.
There's a couple of hands up, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see them. Oh, Mark, sorry. Mark, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that I think the easiest solution is Jesus aware of this?
He is from, well, Alex, I think if he's on, I don't know, but I believe he is from a request standpoint, because those requests have gone on into CB6, into the district office on occasion.
So I think, Alex, what typically we had this issue, I don't know, I think before I was chair, actually, I don't know how many years ago, but the office just sort of, reached out to the agency and tried to get a small meeting together with the agencies to figure out how to adjust the contract with the contractor so that these could be taken down. It's a legal process because they have a contract and they have to put these things up because, as Marty said and knows very well, all about tree beds, not bits, the insurance issues and damage and stuff. So that may be the best way to go, is just to, get DDC, maybe Parks. I don't know if Parks necessarily has to be involved, and the contractor, just to amend the contract to take these things down when they're not doing any more work. But
Michael,
it's a legal thing.
Yeah, thank you. Michael Ann, do you know if, I know, again, Councilmember Rivera's office has been receptive and, to the point where they've gone out there and found ACE to help. Do you know if they've tried to orchestrate a meeting on this? I haven't reached out personally, but do you know if they have any plans?
I do not know. I think it seems like they keep reverting back to Karen's office and getting the same answer, which is reading that old mandate. Oh, they can't come down until the project's finished. So it seems like this repeat, but they're not really looking at,
Well, is it, and I know that there's a representative of the borough president's office I see on here. Is it a borough president? Does that help put more, if we can, Mark, your feelings on that?
I mean, I think it's really, it's just getting the agency to say, okay, we have pressure on us to do this, and then they just go to the contract itself. It takes a little while to get it done because it's legal, but if there's no reason for these things to be up, then you have to go back to the contract, make an amendment, adjust it. There may be some financial issue here, I don't know, but I think if you get, the borough president's office, Carlina's office involved, it happens. It just takes a little bit of nudging.
If you look at what happened on 33rd Street, it did not take them very long to get them removed after we did the walk around. It took us 2 months to get the walk around, but we got the walk around, and shortly after that, they cleaned up the construction. We went through it with construction messes that were left behind and everything, but noted, of course, the ugly tree guards. They took them all down on 33rd Street. So it was like, wow, okay, great. I think there was
was construction done on 33rd Street? Was
Oh,
it
yeah.
complete?
That was
Oh,
it.
okay, that's why it's done. The work is done, so it can come down. So if
Well,
that's,
it wasn't
But
just
that's not
that.
the case with everywhere else, because
Right.
the
Correct.
work is conceivably done lots of stretches. You take
Mhm.
Kips Bay on Second Avenue, there's stretches
Oh.
there that
Yeah.
conceivably work is done.
Because it's
never
like
done.
the whole project is finished. It's like, really?
okay. So if they've done it in one spot, they can probably do it in another as easily. So just a little bit of political pressure, I think, is what it needs.
Okay, Jeannie, thank you, Mark. Jeannie, you
I
have the
I just
floor.
wanted to note that Anne Sullivan has her hand raised as well.
Oh, okay. I don't see that. Oh, is she in chat? Oh, there she is. Okay, go ahead, Anne.
Somebody allowed me to unmute. Yeah, I'm a little bit contrarian on this. And honestly, like 3 days ago, I would never have had an opinion. But I was taking the bus up Third Avenue, and I can't tell you exactly what street I was in. But Michael Ann, I was probably in Murray Hill, and I saw a tree guard like pushed up against the tree. And the thought that went through my head was, boy, it's a good thing that tree guard was there, or whatever truck took down the tree guard would have taken out the tree. And so I guess I just want to be really careful because, I am sympathetic, and the rat poisons other things besides rats, and that's really problematic, and obviously the sanitation issues. But I just would really want to be careful because you can't just replace one tree with another. Like if they oops, and they knock that tree, they knock over a 50-year-old tree. You can't just plop another one in there. So I guess I'm always contrarian, so
Yeah.
that's what I'm doing.
Thank you, Anne. What I would add to that is that if that was not a construction vehicle, then that's not what the guards are up for. They're not up for bad drivers.
No. It was in a construction area.
Okay, so a bad driver on the construction.
And it was coming,
team.
it looked like it was coming from the sidewalk side was where the tree guard had been knocked into the tree, not from the street side.
Okay.
So if it was a bad driver, it was a really bad driver.
Right. And of course, there's multiple issues to this issue. One of them is, why can't the construction company, sure, they can hit guards, but why can't they pick up the trash out of these tree beds? And as you saw in that photo, and Alex, I would love you to just put it up again in case somebody's joining us late, but that orange mesh, you have a situation there where even if Michael Ann and her team wanted to pick up the trash, they can't reach it because it's being wrapped by orange mesh. And we think potentially, a couple of people I spoke with, is that that's just keeping up the tree guard, because maybe the tree guard is falling apart.
Yeah.
So what is design and construction, I should say the construction company, doing about the trash, which again leads to rodents, and that puts poison traps down, and we got kids there in some cases. This particular one, I walk there a lot because two of my children go to school a half block from this tree guard. It's just, it's not just the tree guard, it's what's inside, and the poison that's inside as well.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's, on any given day, Claire, a tree, a truck can hit the trees, like I said, and they hit the curb. Now we're looking at replacing tree guards with just keeping the curbside open instead of investing in the four sides, because it inevitably trucks and cars pull up and they squish the curbside tree guard that is there, the metal ones, the good ones. But so, we can't handle, we can't obviously see over all of these, any given truck that's going to bang into the tree.
Right.
That's liable to happen. But overall, it's such an overwhelming resolute that these tree guards are not doing us any good. They're in fact harming our environment and the trees.
Thank you. Matt, you have the floor.
And I just want to add to that, it seems to be a relatively new phenomenon because, I've been around for quite some time and I haven't really seen this wooden structures around trees until, recently in the last year or 2 years. And when I mentioned before that there are consequences for damaging a tree, there are other creative solutions that that can be brought to bear to keep trees safe. The cost of the caliper of the tree, it's the thickness of the tree is what is, I think, the consideration that's given for when a tree is damaged and a penalty is imposed for damaging it. And it's those consequences that should keep people protecting trees. But there are other ways, other creative ways that may be brought to bear, like bonding, in the contracts, providing a bond to repair or replace, not repair, but replace any trees that might be damaged during a particular project. But anyway, I just wanted to raise that also as an issue, because I think that if you've been around, you haven't seen these tree guards until very recently. And they just really, really terrible from what I was able to gather.
Thank you. Good input. Before I call on Jeannie, I did want to say it's nice to see in the chat, Brian Lafferty is on board from the Borough President Mark Levine's office. He has let us know that we can reach out to him with any concerns. That's nice to hear. Thank you, Brian. Jeannie, you have the floor.
Oh, I just wanted to note that Brian had put something in chat. There's also a question in Q&A. Do you want me to read that to you? I don't know if you can see.
Please,
that.
go ahead.
Okay, if the tree guards aren't affixed to the ground, how much protection are they really providing when something bumps into them? So again, the question is raised about, are they really effective at all? And actually, I personally think that actually poses a danger if they're not actually affixed to anything. So just even to pedestrians. So
that's a really good point.
Yeah, it is.
And is that true? I think that's always the case, right, Michael Ann, if I may, that they are not attached in any of the cases.
Oh yeah, when they first went up, I'm like, why are the tree guards here in the first place? They're not embedded into the ground. We're
talking just about just so you know, everyone else, we're just talking about the wooden tree guards, not the steel. Go ahead.
So why are they there in the first place? Because they're not even embedded into the ground. And how would that work if they're, because as I saw it, I'm thinking these can shift. If any truck comes up to the, pushes easily. And so this is what's been happening, and this is what we've seen. They're falling off of the mark. So
right, yeah. Thank you for that question. I'm just seeing it now too, Alex. Great question, Jeannie. You have the floor.
Yeah, I just wanted to maybe conclude this conversation by just thinking of some next steps, some options for the committee to consider. One is, just do we start off with the call, work with our CB6 office and maybe even Brian now. That's the first that comes to my mind. Second is, do we invite design and construction to our meeting? I mean, would they come? I don't know. To have this conversation and to hear our concerns. And three, I could make a motion for a resolution if you'd like, if that's helpful. And what do we want in that resolution to have? What are we considering for next steps? Is that what you would want in this resolution?
Well, I think, thank you, Jeannie. I think that speed is certainly one of the goals here. And what you and Mark, what you had said up top and what Mark had said, it seems like we would have more turbochargers if we go through and try to set up a meeting. Again, we can't be dodged, but if, the borough president's office, we've already just heard with Brian, that if we can somehow get a meeting and like Mark said, sort of approach that contract, that could be quicker than a resolution going through full board. Is that, Mark, am I crystallizing your words properly?
Yeah, I think that, the first thing to do is maybe Alex have the office reach out to Carlina and Brian's on, so that's great, and just coordinate a meeting. DDC will meet with them. That's not a big deal. It's probably just a phone call away to say, hey, it's a mess. Can you guys get the contractor to take down the ones that aren't necessary anymore and clean it up? Because they have to clean it up. That's in their contract. They have to maintain the guards. That's in their contract. They have to remove them when the job is over. That's the contract. So it's
Mark, are you saying the contract probably has in it that when you say cleanup, does that mean making sure there are no advertisements, graffiti, other things, toilet paper wrappings around the guards?
Yeah, I don't know about graffiti, but the language I remember from doing these years ago was that, the sites needed to be clean. Most
Again,
times they don't do it, but if you insist on it, they will.
A resolution, it's up to anybody. If everybody wants to make a resolution, if everybody, wants to vote on it, but again, I think speed is really the key here. And we could always, and I know we've talked about this, we could, if we feel we're not getting any say, we'll have a lot more, I think, punchier resolution. Does anybody else have any contradicting feelings on this? Anne, has your mind been swayed in a different direction? Anyone? Okay.
My mind did not need swaying. I was just offering a consideration.
Okay.
Because like I said, you can't, like finding somebody, like how do you replace like a 50-year-old tree? You can't.
Right,
So,
understood. But
yeah.
Letty Simon, you do
Thank
have the
you.
floor.
Thank you. I think in terms of expediency, I think the best thing to do is to have the borough president and the council member have a meeting, get in touch with them and let them have a meeting with you, with DDC, and outline specifically what you want done about the tree pits. Talk to them first before we have a reso. We may not need it.
Right.
And let's just try and get action. And the way to do that is not thinking up resos, but this is a service matter and not a policy matter. And I think maybe the best way of doing it is the direct approach and be very focused on that meeting. Have two questions, removing tree guards and also the sanitation, because the most important thing is the result of it is that it endangers the general health and welfare of the public. And that is something of concern. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Very well articulated. And I think that, it looks like we're going in that direction. I just know, though, that got to make sure that meeting happens. Marty, you have the floor.
Yeah, well, considering that the council member had already seen the property and obviously has not gone forward with anything, and the borough president's office, they're at our meeting. I would hope that Brian takes this back to his office and starts something. We could send a letter of encouragement, but we really don't need a resolution at this point. The borough president's office should be able to manage this, and or the ombudsman, whatever they call that office.
Right. Advocate.
That's the one.
That's the one. That's fine. And the only thing I would say, Letty, on policy, you're right. I mean, we're trying to get them to stick to the contract, but I do think that we're leaning towards a future where maybe they don't have to be tree guards. Maybe there's, like someone said, a creative solution that does become more of a policy matter than just adhering to a contract. But maybe the first step is to go ahead and see if we can at least get them to do what they're supposed to do in the contract.
I think the first thing you want is action. Don't worry about policy for the future. You have a clear and present situation now. And I think the issue is to proceed with asking the borough president and the council member, who would be very concerned about this, to set up that meeting. And I think at this point, we spent a lot of time on this, and it would be wonderful if we could just move forward with that action.
Let's do that. And again, one more thanks to Brian Lafferty for being on board. He has reconfirmed his commitment to getting this in front of the borough president. So thank you. I appreciate it. We can move on. Thank you, Murray Hill Neighborhood Association. Thank you, Michael Ann.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, agenda item number 2 is the continued discussion of proposed fiscal year 2024 budget requests. Now, at last committee meeting, we unanimously decided to shed one item from our request at Astor Levy. Although, as I was told, we do need to wait until the end of this process before we formally see it disappear from the list. I I believe we have a, Alex, do you have the request list handy? Magic, thank you. So are there any, and this is sort of a pickup from our last discussion where I was trying to lean, is there any projects that we feel have been on this for too long that aren't really priority anymore and that we can potentially shed from this list? Not the Astor Levy, but anything else. And I will say that I did hear from some people in the community on some parks and recreation matters that the Councilmember Powers had asked for some proposed capital projects. I'm looking at them here. One is lights for basketball and pickleball at St. Martin Park. Actually, last night I was at the park about 8 p.m. and saw 4 people playing some serious basketball in the dark. So that's, but in addition, more than 250 pickleball players, they are requesting adequate pickleball courts. And they put that request in for one of the requested capital projects for Councilmember Powers. And if you haven't seen this list or looked at, I know that Jesus has given us a great tutorial last meeting about how to go through and find this list. I would urge everyone to do so before next meeting. I will go down this quickly. If you haven't done that yet, I will call you out next meeting to make sure that we have new park in Community District 6. Yes, that's there for now. Renovate Ralph Bunch. Now, I don't know, we should see if Lou Spersky is on here. I had a visit to Stive Cove Park a couple of weeks ago with the parks manager, Candace Thompson. Candace pointed out multiple pieces of bluestone in the park there. She said that they will be disposing of that. She will be disposing of benches and other items in the next month or so if someone does not want them. I thought of Lou's request in this committee for bluestone at Ralph Bunch Park and connected Lou to Candace. So I don't know if anything, Sheena, do you know if anything became of that? Repurposing the bluestone at Stive Cove for Ralph Bunch?
No, this is the first I'm hearing of that.
Okay, didn't mean to call you out, but I didn't know if you had overheard. Okay, I could try to follow up on that. Anyone have any thoughts on the remaining? I do want to advocate for making this list shorter. Again, it's still by far the longest list of any committee in CB6. Well, redesign of Bellevue South Park is continuing. Let's see. Well, there's library funding, which we'll discuss library in a minute. I will say about more capital improvements to Peters Field. The Parks Department did, it was actually at that get together we had with Commissioner Donahue, that they are not only looking to refurbish the surface for those basketball courts at Peters Field and to put in new stanchion and nets, they are also thinking about kicking it up a notch and adding lighting, which was really nice to hear. So they may be doing that with some news to come soon. Okay, I don't want to belabor this. We do have a few months to do it, but Marty's going to keep me honest on making sure that we don't stay too far behind the ball on this like I did last year. Okay, we can move on to agenda item number 3. Yes, agenda number 3. Continued discussion of the closure of the Grand Central Library branch. At last meeting, we did agree to readdress this item at this meeting. Jeannie has led research on this, which has included a conversation she had with the president and CEO of the New York Public Library System. Jeannie, I'm going to give you the floor to give us any overview.
Sure, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I did have a brief conversation with Tony Marks, president of the New York Public Library. we were speaking about some other matters and I brought it up. And so he actually sent me some information. Basically, what he said was, and you all know this, that they rebuilt, or the Niarchos Foundation Library on 42nd Street, a new one, I believe, on 56, spent over $220 million on these projects. The 46th Street branch was meant to be temporary. During its construction phase, it was never meant to be a permanent library branch. As much as Tony would love to keep every library branch open and add more, he'd love to do it. He just doesn't have the resources to do it. He was, sorry that it's closing. Wish he could do something else about it, but he felt that with 2 library branches within 10 blocks from each other, that's much better than some other districts, and he didn't. And that's basically where we landed. So,
thank you for that overview. So here we are. This is the second meeting we've discussed this. I think we all, you can correct me if I'm wrong, understand the need for libraries in our communities, but I do understand where Jeannie is coming from. I should say, Tony Marks is coming from. I do know, Jeannie, that he has also said that he really has to take care of some of the poorer neighborhoods of our city that go blocks and blocks without libraries. Is that accurate?
yes, yeah, he said, and if in order to keep the 3rd library open, he would literally have to pull resources from other poorer neighborhoods, as he put it, to do that. He says, I'm not going to do that. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that.
Okay. So it's not something I can do, but if anybody does wish to propose a resolution or anything else, letter, you have it. This would be the time to do it. Actually, before I say that, Jeannie, is there any other update that you've heard of as far as, I think they have pretty much made the decision to close. Is there any sunlight at all for keeping it open, or is it that door is pretty much closed?
If I can't say for sure 100% that the door is pretty much closed. I think that if there are some resources, if they found some resources, or by some, it could stay open. But right now they're focusing on moving out the collections into other branches, relocating all the employees. Nobody will be let go, as Tony said. So they're already into conversations. So I don't see this staying open. I don't see it as possible, but anything can happen.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I'm looking for any potential hands. I do not see any. If any members of the public have any questions or comments about this particular item before we...
Letty has her hand up.
Okay, go ahead. Letty, you have the floor.
I'm impressed by what Jeannie had to say, and I think we should take it seriously. And I think that at this point, maybe it's not a subject that we should actively pursue, but keep on the back burner for another time.
Thank you. And I don't mind keeping it going, especially if there's a development that happens.
I would just keep it on the back burner at this point. It doesn't seem that it's going to go anywhere. It's a noble thought. It's an important thought. But I think at this point, since there's been a direct one-on-one and a very frank discussion that Jeannie had with the president of the library, that's our answer at the moment. And there are other fish to fry and things to pursue at the moment. So perhaps maybe this point at a later date or next year or something.
Okay, Alex Crawford, you have the floor.
I just wanted to say that Anne Seligman has her hand raised.
Oh, okay. Anne, go ahead.
Yeah, I have to say, I suspect this ship has sailed. If you put it on the back burner, it will just turn to a little crisp there, because once it is closed, it is never coming back. So, like, I mean, honestly, if that's what we want to say, and as a community board, we're going to say, we'll just let it go. Whatever. We tried, that's it. I have to say, I've had 3 conversations with staff members at different libraries who I know more or less, like some more, some of them less, in the last month since the last meeting. And I got very different ideas about whether this is a done deal. And Jeannie, I'm so like psyched that you got to talk to Tony Marks about this, because we have honestly been trying to get a straight answer on it for months. And, you know, some people say like, yeah, it's totally a done deal. And some people say, no, if there's community support. And I think when I started this whole conversation with Kevin, and in the materials that I sent you, the questions I asked were, you know, when will the decision be made and what are the criteria they are using to decide which branch should be closed? And we have still not gotten an answer to either of those. And the minimal answer that we had gotten to the criteria, you know, kind of what were the metrics around the libraries, showed that this was the most popular branch in Community Board 6 in the district. So, you know, I think it's a little disingenuous for Tony Marks to say, oh yeah, you know, it's like, you know, we've done this, but they're not making it public. Like, if just own it, you know, if they're gonna do it. But when you call them, if you go into the library, they say there are no plans to close this library, with a wink. So I feel like I have lost so much respect for the library, of whom I have been a lifelong supporter, because they will not just say, you know what, this is what we're going to do. If they had come to us when I first heard about this decision, which was last November, if they had come to us and said, hey, is there community support for this? I mean, that's one of the questions I've asked, is they do it like, we love our library. Like, how many people said that about Grand Central versus Kips Bay, right? Like, it's a number. They have those metrics. And, you know, if we could have gotten this on Keith Powers' kind of radar, or Brian Lafferty, you know, Mark Levine's, like Gail Brewer's radar last November, we might have some more wiggle room now.
I do know,
the
thank
branch
you.
at
I do
50
know
is
that, I do know that
well.
one of Tony Marks's comments was that it had always been meaning to be is that accurate, Jeannie? Always meaning to be in a temporary
Yes,
location?
absolutely.
Because
When it was opened 15 years ago, it was supposed to be open for 7 years. And then basically they decided, you know, this is a successful library. Keith Powers helped get some money for it. And so there was like a split support, and that's how it's been open, like that's how it opened for another lease. But I'm saying, like, if you're, I guess my argument is, something's been open for 15 years, doesn't feel quite so temporary, and maybe they should evaluate it. You know, if they said, you know what, yes, this is 20% more popular than our other libraries, but it costs 50% more to run, I would take that as a completely reasonable answer. But they are not providing any of those answers.
Thank you. Go ahead, Jeannie, you have the floor.
Yeah, one thing that Tony did note, I mean, he was trying, you know, looking at the New Arcos Foundation Library branch. He said, I'm just looking at some of my notes from him. He says, an example, the 26,000 square foot children's and teen area of the New Arcos Foundation Library is by itself double the total square footage of Grand Central. While we understand that these new branches are not right next door to the Grand Central, they are in the same relative area, creating a saturation of library service in Midtown. Grand Central was always intended to be a temporary space. Considering the location, the lease considering the location is pricey, especially considering the proximity to the two bigger, more modern spaces nearby. The library is leaning towards letting the lease expire. So, and if this is the case, they have 8 full-time staff from Grand Central who will continue to do amazing work throughout the New York Public Library system. And we would ensure that much of the programming that took place at Grand Central will be moved to the nearby locations. And then, he basically said to me on the phone that the last thing he wants to do is close the library branch, but he's, this is really going to ultimately come down to a business decision. And that's where he stands. It's not something he wants to do or in favor of, but he just doesn't have the resources to keep a third library branch open.
Right.
The New Yorkos Foundation Library branch is very popular. It's huge, it's beautiful. It's it's something extraordinary. Comparing that to the 46. So I think that's what he's banking on, is that the district and the community will be very happy with the new branch.
Thank you. And we promise that we will stay on this unless somebody else has a hand or I don't see any Q&A. So we're gonna go over to agenda item number 4. That brings us to Sheena Kaufman, who of course is district manager for the Department of Parks and Recreation. For a report, Sheena, you have the floor.
Hey, good evening, everyone. So just a few updates. I guess I'll start with St. Barton's. The completion date for the design work for the playground project has been delayed until September 30th. This is to allow testing to determine the location and condition of the utility lines. And that's going to be maybe a few months for that. Vincent Albano design work is being completed this month, and then it'll go into the procurement stage, and that'll take about 3 to 4 months. And Bellevue South is slated to close on May 2nd for capital improvement. And I think that's about it.
Thank you. I do have a question. This came, actually, I gotten an email today from a parent at PS 116, and this came up at a previous meeting. You may have a situation where 29th Street Playground and the St. Barton Playground are closed for construction around the same time. Is there any way that Parks Department can consider staggering the work so at least the kids can have some playground equipment for that area? Because that will put a squeeze on kids not having playground equipment. I mean, actually, they're looking now at the possibility of maybe using the PS 116 playground area for the general public. Parks Department's not, but the school is potentially. Is there any way that they can stagger that work? And
I guess, from past constructions that I've known of, you don't want to really put a delay in it because it's already, been delayed for a while. So I doubt if that, usually playgrounds take about a year in completion. And I do understand maybe they can get some street closure in some of the areas for playtime, but you really don't want to delay any of these projects because they've been, in delay for so long trying to get them done. And to probably request that will probably, I've seen this happen in the past. If you do something like that, getting it done, restarted can be an even longer delay.
Right, but I do know, and I think this committee is well aware that with the East River Park, with the project going on now, that was going to be closed for the entire length of the project until there was further discussion, and then it was staggered as it is being now. So I will say that, but I see. Go ahead.
That's a bigger project because it's on. They have other areas that they can. Other parks that's around the East River that they can, visit. If you this is just my personal notion of that. This happened a few times uptown that I've noticed that they delayed it for whatever reason. And it just took years and years and years for them to restart the project again. So, I think we really should, look forward to getting these projects done and probably come up with another area that we could probably utilize and for the time being. Delaying it or stagnating, it might take, take away from what we potentially really want them to do, finish the job and get the
Okay.
parks reopened.
Thank you for that insight. Claire Brennan, you have the floor.
Hello, hi Sheena. I was just wondering, in terms of Stuyvesant Square Park and the watering system with the summer coming up, we were wondering if there was any plans like for alternative water plans for the East Side Park because the sprinklers are out of commission.
I don't know that. When I got here, I believe that that was already taking place. So I will have to look into that a little more in depth for the east side of the park. I will have to look further into that because I'm not quite sure the whole logistics behind the Stuyvesant Park. I know the two buildings are closed and we cannot open them due to structural, damage. So I'm not quite sure what they plan on. What's the plan? What's the future plan? I'm sure the future plan is to make the necessary repairs, but I don't know what moving forward what they're going to do.
Right. And I think that was like maybe slated to be like a capital improvement now. But I guess we're just kind of curious about the interim because we know that projects like that can take a really long time. But if we wait until the repairs happen, everything in the park will die pretty quickly.
Well,
so.
I can say, we do have like fire hydrants close by this
Oh,
area.
interesting.
And, push come to shove, we can be able to, utilize that to make sure that that doesn't happen. And they're actually on, each corner, in each intersection of Stuyvesant. So I'm sure that they won't, we won't allow that to happen. But, I have to look into it. So I don't want to speak about it. Let me just speak to our shops division and, go over it with Steve about the water sources that's in Stuyvesant and what we're going to do about it, being that the buildings are closed.
That sounds great. Thank you so much, Sheena.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Claire. Anton, you have the floor.
Yes, quick question. The other day I went down to Sutton Place Park a little after 6 o'clock and I saw it was closed. Now it's kind of bright daylight these days with daylight savings time. When are the hours going to be changed so that we can enjoy the park after 6 o'clock?
Well, we're looking into that. We're looking into our the MOU that we have with the building that closes the location and what the agreement, was. It was brought to our attention. So Steve is looking into it. We are both looking into it. We're waiting for the response. So as soon as we get it, I'll let the community board know. You can give me a call. You want to take my number down? You there?
Or we could do it in chat. You could do it in
Put it
chat.
in chat. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I do not see any more hands. That moves us to agenda item 5, Chair's Report. I'll just say that tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 12:30 is It's My Park Day at Ralph Bunch Park. There are a couple family-friendly Earth Day events coming up on April 30th. I know Earth Day is April 22nd, but it does, that later date falls, the earlier date falls during spring break for schools. April 30th from 10 a.m. to noon, Earth Day activities will happen at St. Martin Park in Kips Bay. And from 2 to 5 p.m. the same day, Earth Day activities will happen at Sutton Place Park on East 57th Street. Please spread word. Agenda item 6 is old and new business. If any member of the committee has any old or new business, please raise your hand. I will also see if there's anything in Q&A from the public. I do not see either. So right now I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Mark. Still doesn't need a second. Years later, it still doesn't need a second.
No change.
Anyway, 8:09 p.m. I'm joshing, Matt, but it's true. 8:09 p.m. is our dismissal time. All have a great night. Thank you.
Bye.